Old man shoved. Crowd gasps. His cane flies from his hand. He nearly gets run over. The group of teenagers just stands there, laughing, but they didn't know. He's not just some ordinary old man. He's a veteran, a man who once held a rifle on the battlefield. One of those veteran stories society tends to forget. And just 20 minutes later, a group of Marines shows up. No cops, no sirens, just disciplined footsteps and unyielding eyes. At Justice for Veterans, we don't tell stories for views. We tell them to restore honor, because this time, the man who fell was a Marine, and he was not alone. Tone, low, slow, builds emotional depth. Optimized for AI voice, Frank Delaney walks slowly down the sidewalk, gripping a wooden cane worn down by time. The morning breeze lifts the small Marine badge pinned to his faded coat. He was a Master Gunnery Sergeant, the highest enlisted rank in the U.S. Marine Corps. Survived Normandy, crossed through Korea, marched the jungles of Vietnam. But now, he lives alone in a third-floor apartment with no elevator. Every morning, he visits the same bakery, buys one chocolate eclair, sits on a park bench, writes quietly in a worn leather notebook. No one notices. No one knows who he really is. Until that morning, when he was no longer invisible. Tone, nostalgic, deepen emotional resonance. Optimized for AI voice. Every morning, at exactly 7:15, Frank leaves home, wearing a faded cap stitched with the words, USMC, Vietnam vet. Not fast, not slow, a steady pace, like a man who's marched through war. Mary's Pastry sits at the corner of 3rd Street, the only shop that still keeps a wooden bench out front. The young owner always sets aside his eclair in brown paper. No need to ask. He eats slowly, watching the world go by, as if it's moved too fast for him. No one says hello. No one remembers his name, except for a golden dog that occasionally drops by and waits quietly by his feet. That morning was the same, except a group of teens was already standing outside, and one of them wasn't smiling kindly. Tone shifts to tension, actions clear and crisp, optimized for AI voice. 3 teenagers block the entrance to the bakery. One, in a red hoodie, chewing gum, points to Frank's cap. Hey, old man, that real or just cosplay? Frank doesn't answer, just nods slightly and tries to step past. The second kid laughs, elbows the third. Careful, the colonel's coming. Stand at attention. As Frank walks by, a shove. He loses his balance, falls toward the edge of the street, where traffic races past. His cane flies out of reach. An SUV screeches to a halt, just inches away. Bystanders glance over. No one stops. The teens, they laugh even harder. They think it's a joke. Tone, calm, cold, inner strength. Optimized for AI voice. Frank lies there for a few seconds. No groaning, no cry for help, only the sound of traffic and distant laughter. He presses one hand to the pavement and shakily pushes himself up. The other hand searches for the cane, lying several feet away. His back hunches slightly, but his eyes remain as steady as the day he saluted the flag. Frank brushes the dust off his coat, glances at the bakery. The eclair is crushed inside its paper. He doesn't pick it up. There's no rage in his eyes, just one thing: resolve. He quietly pulls out his phone and dials no emergency number. Tone, steady, low, firm, optimized for AI voice. Frank stands beside a traffic light. His hands tremble slightly, but the finger dialing the number is unwavering. No contact name, no hesitation. Marine Corps Recruitment Station, how can I? Frank interrupts. Get me Gunnery Sergeant Ray Mendoza. And who's calling? Frank Delaney. On the other end, the air shifts. A chair scrapes back. A voice answers, clear and strong. I'm on my way. Frank hangs up, doesn't look back at the bakery, just walks slowly toward the park, the place where, once, he was welcomed, as a young Marine. A few blocks away, a sergeant tightens his gloves nods to 8 young Marines, tone, quicker, tight, urgent-like, gearing up for a mission. Optimized for AI voice. Gunnery Sergeant Ray Mendoza is in the middle of formation drills when his phone vibrates. 3 words. Frank Delaney called. He stops cold, his eyes narrow. Drop everything. On your feet. 8 recruits snap to attention. No questions asked. The station doors swing open. Ray throws on his uniform jacket. Gloves up, pulls his cap low. He says only one line. We've got an off-hours mission. Follow me. No sirens, no alarms, just synchronized boots pounding the pavement, marching toward a quiet little street corner. Minutes later, the block where Frank had been pushed falls into an eerie silence, tone, slow, steady, full of authority, like a formation on the move. Optimized for AI voice. Boots strike the pavement in perfect sync. 8 young Marines, moving as one unit. Up front, Gunnery Sergeant Ray Mendoza. Eyes cold, cap low, gloves clenched. No one speaks. No one smiles. Each step echoes down the street. People pause to look, unsure what's unfolding, but they instinctively step aside. Just minutes ago, this was a playground of mockery. Now, the air feels heavy, like steel before a storm. At the far end of the alley, the group of teens is still hanging around. They don't know. They're being flanked from 3 sides. No sirens, no shouting, only the sound of marching boots drawing near. Tone, tight, cold. Each beat freezes time. Optimized for AI voice. Sunlight pours down the narrow alley, stretching the shadows of the Marines as they approach. The teens are still unaware, laughing, tossing jokes, until a pair of boots stops at the alley's entrance. Kyle turns his head and freezes. Behind him, 7 Marines form a V formation, expressionless, silent. Each Marine blocks a path out, as if pre-programmed to cut every exit. Only one way remains open, and Frank Delaney is walking through it, slowly. No one yells. No one pulls a weapon, but the air thickens, like mist before a lightning strike. 8 men, one side, standing for honor. The other, the ones who threw that honor to the pavement. The special training session is about to begin. No one speaks. Gunnery Sergeant Ray Mendoza steps slowly toward the teens. His eyes scan each face. Steady, cold, like reviewing the worst platoon he's ever seen. You boys just knocked down a Marine. Not just an old man. Not just a bystander, but someone who once protected the very right for you to stand here and laugh at others. His name is Frank Delaney, Master Gunnery Sergeant. 3 wars, 12 medals. And you think he's weak? Now, stand up straight, be silent, eyes forward, and learn respect, like a new recruit. And then, the unofficial training session began. No weapons, only the Marine spirit. No shouting, no punches, but the alley echoes with the bark of drill commands. What's your name? I said, what's your name? Kyle. Kyle, sir. There's no sir here. To me, you're just a candidate who failed the ethics exam. The Marines shout in unison. Sir. Yes, sir. The voices boom. Synchronized. Psychological pressure mounting. Troy holds his breath, eyes locked to the ground. Marcus tries to stand straight, but his knees are shaking. Jaden is the only one who whispers, I'm sorry. Ray walks slowly, each step a lesson. Honor doesn't live in age. It lives in how you treat those who once kept this country standing. An hour ago, they laughed in a soldier's face. Now, not one of them dares to look up. Kyle's smirk is gone. Sweat rolls down his temple. He glances toward Frank, still standing at the alley's end, slightly hunched, but eyes like forged steel. Marcus exhales hard, barely staying upright. Troy stumbles back half a step, on the verge of tears. Only Jaden lifts his head, eyes wet. I didn't know who you were, sir. I'm sorry. Frank says nothing. He simply nods. That small gesture feels heavier than 1,000 speeches. Ray looks each teen in the eye. Next time, before you laugh at an old man, ask what he's done so you could live freely enough to laugh at all. All the Marines snap to attention. They bow their heads, exactly 45 degrees, toward Frank. Then, without a word, they step aside and clear the way for him to walk through. Frank Delaney walks through the center of the formation. His cane taps the pavement, each sound like a drumbeat of honor. The recruits part to either side, standing at attention like greeting a superior officer. No one gives the order, they just do it, because he is a Marine. Gunnery Sergeant Ray Mendoza steps forward. He stands tall, salutes properly. We never let our own be disrespected. Frank doesn't respond, but his lips tighten, holding back a smile. His chest lifts slightly. Chin rises. For the first time in years, he no longer feels invisible. No words were needed, just his eyes, and the silent respect from everyone around him. Since that day, the neighborhood hasn't been the same. Those teens suddenly became surprisingly respectful. They bowed to the elderly, fell quiet when they saw a uniform, people say. If you come to the bakery at exactly 7:15 in the morning, you'll see an old man sitting on a worn wooden bench, holding an eclair, eyes gazing far off, with a golden dog resting at his feet. They no longer call him Old Frank. They call him something else. The last Marine. The last one, who reminded the whole street that honor is not something you ever leave behind. And ever since that day, whenever someone tells this story, the listener falls silent, then slowly nods. Because deep down, everyone understands one truth. When one person stands up for what's right, the entire community follows. Frank Delaney never needed anyone to pat him on the back. He only needed one thing: justice. Not for himself, but for every man and woman who ever picked up a rifle for this country, then came home and were forgotten. At Justice for Veterans, we believe this: a society is only truly civilized if it never abandons those who once sacrificed everything for it. If you've ever seen an old soldier crossing the street alone, be the first to walk beside him. If this story made your heart pause for even a second, leave a thank you in the comments. Maybe they're reading. Maybe they need it now more than ever. Because sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't require a big speech. Just one person, taking the first step. Justice for Veterans. We leave no one behind.